I wanted to thank all of you for being here today for our Tech Talk on bridging um, regions for biodiversity, how to advance the global and Caribbean strategies for plant conservation. I wanted to take a moment to thank both Megan and Cristóbal for being here today and sharing their expertise with us. For those that don't know, my name is Lina Ramirez. I'm working for Naples Botanical Garden here in Southwest Florida, and I am the regional coordinator for the Caribbean and Central American Botanic Gardens Network. I also wanted to set some ground rules before we begin our presentations. Please, while presenters are speaking, stay muted. And then at the end of our presentations, we will open it up for Q&A, and you'll be able to either raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask questions. You can also use the chat if you're unable to mute yourself. And lastly, before we begin, I wanted to take a quick moment to acknowledge Hurricane Melissa as it continues to make its way through the Caribbean. My thoughts from Naples and from the network through BGCI as well are with you, our colleagues that are being affected by the storm, whether that's damage to institutions, your communities, the ecosystems. The resilience and strength of our regional network continues to inspire us. We're always able to come together to rebuild. So I just wanted to let you know that we're here as you begin recovery efforts and begin moving forward. And despite this storm still continuing on its trajectory, I am happy to say that we have been in contact with a lot of our partners, and the good news is a lot of our partners are safe. It's just going to take a moment to see what the real damage is and be able to report back. But please know that our region and the networks and the teams are here to support you however we can. And with that, I will now go ahead and open the floor to Megan to begin with presenting on the Global Biodiversity Standard, the GSPC, Global Strategy for Plant Conservation.
Thanks, Lina. I will share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Great. So my name is Megan Barstow, and I am the Conservation Policy Manager at Botanic Gardens Conservation International. I've been working on the GSPC now for about 18 months. And before that, I was part of the Global Tree Assessment team. So I've moved around a bit at BGCI, but now focused on the international policy work and support of that for Botanic Gardens globally. So thank you to Lina for inviting me to talk here, and thank you all for coming as well. So the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation, or the GSPC, I think I will try to not use the acronym because I know that can be challenging in Spanish sometimes. So the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation addresses the need for plant conservation in the broader context of the Convention on Biological Diversity, which has been an international agreement that has existed since the beginning of the 1990s. The Global Strategy for Plant Conservation itself was established in 2002 and was really put in place to address the lack of recognition of plants in the Convention on Biological Diversity. So the strategy contains plant-specific goals, targets, or actions to guide conservation of the world's plant species and overall plant biodiversity, and offers the botanical community a call to action and space to take action and contribute to this international biodiversity conservation mechanism. The strategy, the global strategy, can be implemented at organizational levels, but has historically also been implemented through national commitments known as National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plans, which countries are encouraged to produce in general for the Convention on Biological Diversity, or through national plant-specific conservation action plans. And these have been made for China, South Africa, and Brazil, and organizationally, nationally, but then also regionally, which is what Lina will be speaking about today as well for the Caribbean. The Global Strategy for Plant Conservation has developed over time. So since it was founded in 2002, there has been 3 iterations into the iteration of the GSPC that we are now in. So each time the targets of the Convention on Biological Diversity change, the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation is also updated and adapted to ensure there is alignment between the Global Biodiversity Protocol and the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation. So in 2010 to 2020, the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation was made up of 16 targets, which contributed to the implementation of the Aichi biodiversity targets. And these 2020 targets are probably what most Botanic Garden staff are familiar with, because the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation that has just been adopted is very new. It was actually adopted about a year ago at the Convention on Biological Diversity COP that was happening in Cali in Colombia. So we're now in the implementation phase for this new version of the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation, which we will be implementing by 2030. So this new strategy looks a bit different to the last strategy. It has a set of 23 complementary actions and sub-actions rather than the targets of the Plants 2020 strategy. These 23 complementary actions are fully aligned with the 23 targets of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which means that there are some benefits in terms of monitoring and reporting and really ensuring that plant action is recognized at the international conservation level. So this direct alignment means there isn't duplication of effort in terms of reporting, that any plant conservation action taking place can be linked to the overall reporting on the global biodiversity framework, and removes conflict and streamlines the work that the community is doing to support international biodiversity conservation. And this is a diagram to kind of explain what that looks like, because it can be a bit hard to follow. So the old targets, the reporting didn't go up to the highest levels of CBD because the targets weren't fully aligned with the Aichi biodiversity targets. Whereas now the plant conservation actions can be reported directly to the CBD Secretariat or those in your governments that you might have links with who are doing national biodiversity reporting, but they can also be reported at a non-state level to us at BGCI to be considered in this international reporting mechanism. We're still fine-tuning how the reporting will work for gardens, so that is to be updated, but those are the highlights. So for more information on the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation, there is a summary document online that can be downloaded from the BGCI website, which provides a really broad overview of the global strategies for plant conservation over the last 25 years. And also displays the new actions in some interesting infographics. And we're really hoping this guide can be used to get people to engage with the strategy, but also provide a backbone to help you develop your own strategies based on this overall global framework. And I'd like to thank Missouri Botanical Garden for sponsoring the publication of this report. So as I said already, there are 23 3 new GSPC actions. They are 21 of them are unique. And these current actions can be mapped to the previous GSPC 2020 targets. So if the strategy that your organization works towards is mapped to and based on those 2020 targets that we were actioning last decade, there is a tool in the summary document where you can look at what you were implementing in the last decade and how that now compares to the new actions. And so that's to simplify updating any strategies and really to exemplify that we are not starting from scratch in terms of implementing the new GSPC actions. So the GSPC actions are new, but the work Botanic Gardens is doing is not new and is all contributing to the overall implementation of this new global strategy. And one way to identify how you might be contributing is to look at the headlines of the new actions, because there'll be lots of words in there that are in alignment with the strategies that you are already working from. And just to exemplify that, we had a meeting of the global strategy in March 2025, again, graciously hosted by Missouri Botanical Garden. And many of the gardens who attended were already able to identify the actions they were supporting through work in their gardens. So I've highlighted the main commitments here. And so 25 gardens were supporting species recovery action, which means they're undertaking ex situ conservation actions in their gardens. Action number 6 is invasive species. So gardens here will be working potentially with the International Plant Sentinel Network to take action to save species from invasive pests and diseases. Actions 20 and 21 are based on capacity building and knowledge sharing, and lots of gardens already taking action there, and also by engaging with this the Caribbean and Central American Botanic Garden Network, there's already action occurring for these 2 GSPC actions. So the GSPC actions themselves can be used to complement your existing strategies and provide pointers of where to go next with your conservation contributions. There are already many existing tools within the plant conservation community that can support implementation of the GSPC actions. This includes the BGCI databases, work on the wild flora online, and also if any gardens here are contributors to the tropical important plant areas or have established KBA, key biodiversity area networks and protected areas and things like that, that is all contributing to the global strategy for plant conservation. There are steps further, such as engaging with national governments to build a plant biodiversity strategy. But there's also the ground level stuff that many gardens are already doing that is complementary to the global strategy. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the BGCI data tools, but many of these data tools are relevant to monitoring the global strategy for plant conservation. So if you're already contributing data to these tools, you're already contributing data to the progress of the global strategy. So the main portals being BGCI Plant Search, which ensures that we are tracking against actions 2, 4, and 9, which is based around species recovery and protection. Things like Garden Search help us to know how many organizations are pursuing plant conservation, and capacity building, which is actions 2, 4, and 21. Actions 1 and 3, which are related to restoration, are relevant to the use of Global Tree Search Portal. So all the mechanisms so the databases provide a mechanism to ensure that work is being carried out towards the global strategy for plant conservation. BGCI hosts many botanic garden networks and also many technical networks. So if your garden or yourself are already engaged with any of the networks shown on the screen, you are already making a contribution to the global strategy for plant conservation. So some of our networks were formed based on Plants 2020 actions and have carried their work into this new decade with the new global strategy. So gardens working as part of the Ecological Restoration Alliance, or as global biodiversity standard hubs, or with practical tree conservation projects, are already taking actions towards GSPC Action 2. For, again, tree conservation projects, being an affiliate member of the Global Conservation Consortia or engaging with the International Plant Sentinel Network provides activities and scope towards pursuing plant species conservation, which is Action 4. And to touch on the International Plant Sentinel Network, again, as I know there was a workshop recently in the region, this will contribute to the implementation of Action 6 on monitoring and controlling invasive species. One of the newer technical networks at BGCI is the Illegal Plant Trade Coalition, and the Illegal Plant Trade Coalition supports the implementation of Actions 5 and 15, focused on sustainable harvesting and trade in plants and sustainable practices. So hopefully some of these actions already sound familiar to things you're already doing. Along with the actions, there are some overarching objectives of the Global Biodiversity Framework and also the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation. So different sets of actions fall into these overall objectives. So from Action 14 onwards, those actions are related to Objective 3, which is tools and solutions for implementation and mainstreaming biodiversity. And botanic garden networks, regional networks, are really involved with implementing this objective on tools and solutions for implementation and mainstreaming biodiversity. This is because they're bringing stakeholders together, there's workshops happening, there's training happening, there's awareness happening. There's a community focus and all of these things, which all contribute to the implementation of Objective 3, but specifically Actions 14, 20, and 21. So these examples are Botanic Gardens Conservation International networks, but there are other networks that you might be involved with that will also be contributing to the global strategy for plant conservation, such as crop wild relative groups. If you're a member of an IUCN Species Survival Commission, that will also be contributing as well. The Global Strategy for Plant Conservation is managed and supported by the Global Partnership for Plant Conservation, which was established in 2004, which was 2 years after the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation was adopted. The Global Partnership for Plant Conservation is made up of 70 members, including botanic gardens, conservation organizations dedicated to plants, and wider wildlife conservation organizations as well. The partnership provides advice on the work of the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation, represents the partnership at different meetings, international meetings, and helps prepare documents and raise awareness of the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation. The membership is growing, and we invite anyone to become a member. It's free. There is just a commitment of working towards implementing the global strategy. At BGCI, we host the Secretariat of the Global Partnership for Plant Conservation and manage the onboarding and communication with members. We are chaired by Maite Delmas from the Natural History Museum in France, in Paris, and Peter Weiss-Jackson, who I'm sure many of you know. We also have recently established an executive committee who are currently drawing up work plans and priorities for the partnership and also for the implementation of the strategy more widely. There are opportunities to get involved with the partnership. Once you've become a member, you will be able to join working groups or action teams which are in place to progress the work of specific aspects of the global strategy, such as communications or developing world flora online and items like that. So please do join the Global Partnership for Plant Conservation. It is free. You get to network with lots of people with similar interests to you. There are general meetings to attend. There's lots of communication and lots of opportunities to get involved and learn more about implementing the strategy. To become a member, just send an email to policy@bgci.org. We'll be able to share more information with you. And if you're interested in the summary document, you can just scan the screen here, and I will add the link also to the chat for you to look at. But that's everything from me. Thanks very much for listening. And yeah, happy to answer questions at the end of the session.
Okay, perfect. Can you please confirm that you can see my slides? Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
Yes,
see,
I
okay,
can hear
All
you.
good.
Okay.
perfect. I received a message from Zoom saying I needed to leave and come back, so just making sure. Okay, so now I will briefly present on the plant conservation strategy for the Caribbean region, and how our network leverages it along with the global strategy to advance plant conservation in our region. So, our strategy, for some historical context, was first drafted in 2018 by our regional participants and at the second Botanical Bridges Congress that was held in Cuba, and then presented again in 2022 in Eleuthera, the Bahamas, during the Botanical Bridges Congress then. And then it was circulated out with the region for some final edits before being officially published in 2023. It has 4 main objectives and 20 targets total. And I'll just paraphrase those 4 objectives. But the first one is about understanding and documenting plant diversity. The second is on conserving and using plants sustainably. The third is promoting plant education and awareness. And the fourth is building capacity for plant diversity. And as it currently stands, this strategy was developed with the global strategy in mind. So they were really well aligned and went hand in hand. But now that the new global strategy for 2020-2030 has been published, we're now working diligently to realign and update our regional strategy so that it aligns with the new global strategy. So please be on the lookout in 2026 because we will have a brand new shiny version of our current strategy. And for those that haven't seen the strategy yet or accessed it, here's a QR code that you can scan. I will share these again at the end of the presentation. We have it both available in English and Spanish. But really, I would like to focus on how our network is leveraging the regional strategy to really move action forward. One of the ways that we do this is by hosting workshops to strengthen the capacity in our region, which would promote practical skills and peer-to-peer learning, which is very important for us. So far, we have hosted 3 workshops, one in Guatemala, one in Barbados, and one in Costa Rica, with a total of over 80 participants. The themes of these workshops really reflect the needs of the region, but also aligned with targets within our strategy. And some of those themes and topics that we have covered include conservation horticulture, plant health and biosecurity, and propagation protocols. And these workshops have really helped smaller gardens and plant conservation institutions to access knowledge and resources that might otherwise be out of reach, and to help them build relationships with partners across the region to collaborate with on future projects. And also to just act as mentors and mentees to each other as well. And these workshops are fully funded, so there's no financial barrier for our participants to attend. And they're funded through BGCI, the Caribbean and Central American Network, and the Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve. But what is the impact of these workshops, right? Because we can hold the workshops and have hands-on activities, but it doesn't end there. We want to make sure that these workshops go beyond the classroom. But they do offer those hands-on learning opportunities and they encourage collaboration. But they also are a space to help our partners develop and exchange ideas with other institutions. And ultimately, these projects and ideas can become funded because that is a huge restraint for our region. And so we have actually been able to provide funding for projects that come out of these workshops through the funding that is available specifically for these workshops, but also through the Global Botanic Garden Fund through BGCI. We have been able to really help some of these projects develop in their institutions. The Global Botanic Garden Fund supports small projects that really help advance the strategy's regional objectives. So a little bit more about the Global Botanic Garden Fund. It has provided, just for our region, approximately 70 grants since 2019, and has really just been a way for us to propel the network forward in our actions for our plant conservation efforts and for the global strategies. You can check out some of the projects that have already finished by following this QR code. And as well, I will include some of these links for anyone that needs them in our upcoming newsletters so that you can read more about them. But now I would actually like to, or at the end of my presentation, I'm happy to pass it over to Cristóbal from Vallarta Botanic Garden to share a little bit more about the project that their institution did with one of these grants. And so I would like to finally just end this by saying join our network if you haven't already. You should definitely join the Caribbean and Central American Network, as well as Botanic Gardens Conservation International, BGCI, because it really opens up your institution to working together, not just with us as networks, but also with partners across the region. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, either at CCABGN@bgci.org, or if you have my Naples email, you can access me through there as well. And then finally, these 2 QR codes are for the strategies that I mentioned. If you registered on the Eventbrite, when we send out the email, I'll make sure that
Hello,
these
thank you
links
so
are
much,
also included.
Lina.
But that is the end of my presentation, and I would love to pass it now to Cristóbal.
I am going to share my screen, and thank you for having me. It's always my pleasure
Hola. Muchas gracias, Lina.
attend this type of meetings with our colleagues from the Caribbean and Central America Network. So let me see if I can share my screen. Give me one more second. I had been told that they needed a password in the link that was being shared. So if you could share it in the chat, we can do that. That's the password. All right. So I think you can already see my screen. Great. Okay, perfect. So let me introduce myself. I'm Cristóbal Sánchez. I am a biologist, a botany scientist. I work for the Vallarta Botanic Garden, and I'm going to present to you some of the actions that we are carrying out in terms of the global strategy for plant conservation. So first of all, I want to mention that in Mexico, we have had for several years or several decades the Mexican Association of Botanical Gardens. You can check it out in the link that we're going to share in the chat. You can see the map of these botanic gardens that we have in our country. The botanic gardens are the most important institutions to achieve our goals. And currently we also have a network of ethnobiological gardens. Many of them are part of the Mexican Association of Botanic Gardens and ethnological gardens. I saw Orlich is here from the Clavijero garden. He's part of both networks, so it's great to see you, Ornick. So you can check this map and these resources. For those of you who don't know, we are located to the west of Mexico, very close to the beach in the Banderas Bay. And our botanic garden is part of these organizations who are in charge of the environment. And what type of species do we find here? So this is a sneak peek in the Banderas Bay and its surroundings. We have a flagship species. It's one of the most important places in the world, not only because of this charismatic species such as the whale, the jaguar. I'm remembering that I'm being interpreted, so I'm going to speak a bit slower. So these are the species. So there's a river, the Orcones River, that leads to the sea. So what is preserved upstream benefits the downstream basin and the ocean in the Puerto Vallarta area. So there's a unique type of tortoise, which is microendemic. Then we have the Vallarta pine tree and the magnolia, another species called Encino de Huecale, the green guacamayos. And it seems that in this bay, we have the largest population of green guacamaya in the world. And we also have pretty interesting sea species. Now that you've enjoyed the view, this is our botanic garden. It was founded in 2005. We are going to share a link with you in the chat so you can visit our website and you can learn more about all of our celebrations. We have been awarded the Excellence Award by the American Public Gardens Association. It's the only garden out of the United States and Canada that has earned this prestigious award. And thanks to this, we were able to boost the protection of protected natural areas. We've already mentioned the goals the strategy has, and we strive to preserve natural habitats. The Botanic Garden of Vallarta preserves more than 123 hectares of pristine vegetation with several types of vegetation, out of which 32 are already certified as protected by state laws. So these are all the species that are only found in the region. More than 600 species were documented in this basin, and there are more than 100 orchids. Here you can see the river, how it goes along to the side of the botanic garden. So this also allows us to locate invasive species that is important to control. The unique plants of the river can be seen here. This species, Maratrum rubrum, was found a meters above this picture. This is where that new species was found. You can search for the unique features of these plants. So preserving these ecosystems also looks after those plants that are barely seen, that are rare. And this river was under threat. In the year 2021, a project was established that was destroying part of the river. They were looking to set up an illegal hydro power plant or dam, and this was stopped, luckily, thanks to social pressure. Many environmentalist organizations and different actors were able to stop this from happening. And after this, there were different events that were organized to celebrate the river. In 2025, we celebrated this, or we hosted this musical festival where different environmentalist organizations took part, and the municipalities of 2 towns were invited, Puerto Vallarta and Cabo Corrientes. Since then, we have also fostered the involvement of scientists. The second regional Congress of Botany was also held in 2023. This was a month after the Hurricane Lydia affected us. It was a Category 4 hurricane. We were about to cancel this event. You can see that the restaurant had just replaced its roof because it had been affected by the storm, but we finally held it. 100 researchers and students came from all over the country. Besides promoting conservation, Dr. Carmen Anaya and Dr. Rafael Guzman, who has recently passed away, were very much involved in this technical study. They've dedicated their efforts to the protection of this area, the Orcones River Basin. You can see how rich, how beautiful it is, the biodiversity there is there. We were honored to have Lina's visit, and she was able to see what we were doing. This is part of the advocacy for public policy. We have a change.org petition that has more than 800,000 signatures. We want to reach a million. And in this project, we've also named different species. This is a micro-endemic plant that was found in the parking lot of the Vallarta Botanic Garden. 2 years ago, we named it after the Orcones River Basin, and it also brings attention to the importance of this basin. And recently, we also visited the State Council of National or Natural Protected Areas that wants to influence the decision-making processes. And this council will visit our botanic garden to continue the discussions and dialogues to finally declare this as a natural protected area. We have different partners with whom we work. We work with the GCI. They have helped us through this Guardianes de Encinos project, which is coordinated by Dr. Marisela. Other collaborators from the UNAM University from Mexico collaborate. We studied different species in the mountains so we can study them, preserve them, because they are in an endangered species. After this, it was crazy. We crossed rivers. We got to quite hostile spaces, and thanks to our colleagues Adam Black, Dr. Maribel Arenas, we can see our General Director Jesus Reyes here. And thanks to all their efforts, we kept exploring different spaces. Here's another new species that is in the process of being published. To the right, you can see Adam Black. We have a new species for science that will be published shortly. These species are being planted in our botanic garden. And we have the International Association for Encinos, ARNet, and BGCI. We are organizing environmental education workshops, and we are fostering the planting of this species in a school that is part of the community. Thanks to Dr. Maribel Arenas, who studied this species for many years. So this acorn has already been spread, and we've been placing them. We will have more information in the near future. I also would like to highlight the support that the CCABG network provided through BGCI. They helped us propagate 4 native orchids. Lina visited us, and she was able to see the in vitro lab with 4 different species. And thanks to all the support, we want to tell you some good news. The Foundation Franklinia has chosen us to keep advancing in these efforts in terms of the 2 critically threatened microendemic species. These are the Magnolia vallartensis and Pinus vallartensis, together with the other accompanying species. We can see here the first results of our missions where we are documenting the plants. Here we already have some seeds that we're going to propagate. We already have them in our garden. And then the Pino vallartensis cones that are going to be there to be propagated, and that we will be able to share with different common lands. So here we have the 2 main species, and then you can see all the rest of trees that are unique or are under a certain threatened category, or maybe they are endemic in the west of Mexico. This is our reference list, and we will have a garden, a nursery that is exclusively dedicated to the production of native plants for restoration of reforestation projects. There are a lot of lands here. Unfortunately, there's a lot of wildfires, natural disasters that have affected these populations, and we want to support them and help them solve the issues. We have shared these results in several events, but we would like to mention the Latin American Congress of Botany that was held in Havana, Cuba. It was an amazing event, and we were selected as the seat of the vice presidency of this association. This allows us to keep networking with other colleagues, and we also need to consider the Botanical Bridges Congress that will be held next year. So you can't miss that. It's going to be in the Dominican Republic. And these are pictures of our meetings with the consolidated group, the steering committee, the steering team, presided over by Dr. Alejandra Jaramillo. We send our regards to her. And this is a summary. So to consider the objectives, we also need to think that there are specific requirements, but we can document that the first objective has to do with the knowledge of biodiversity. This is going to be held through the certification of natural protected areas, programs for specific species, and participation in lands and other organizations. We also need to consider the sustainable use of plants by promoting community nurseries, education and environmental awareness, together with local organizations. This is important. And then finally, strengthening of capacities with our scientific committee. We have the support of all these associations. This is why we want to thank all these organizations. It wouldn't be possible for us to do all this if it weren't for these networks. So we want to highlight the Caribbean and Central American Botanic Gardens Network. They participated in these technical workshops, and we participated in them to strengthen our capacities. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cristóbal. Okay, then, so now we can open up the space for questions and answers. You can ask questions to any of the speakers. If you want, I can start with my questions. We have some minutes.
Cristóbal, this first question is for you. I would love to know, coming from the regional network, are there ways that BGCI and the Caribbean and Central American network can better support our partners across the region to move towards the targets of the global strategy and regional strategy?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. Yes, there are several projects that are being conducted, so we don't do double work. And Orlik is here in this meeting, so I would like to give him the floor because I am pretty sure that he can provide us with a better answer than mine. Hello, everyone. Yeah, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you, Cristóbal, and thank you. Congratulations to you, Lina and Megan, of course, for your excellent presentations. I'm not sure if I can give a better answer than you, but in any case, I do consider that the network can support many more gardens that are part of the Mexican Association of Botanic Gardens and the network of ethnobiological gardens, because there are many projects that are started and then vanish, not because of lack of budget, but because of lack of a vision as to what is a botanic garden, what is a scientific collection of living plants. So I think that the network, through these workshops, and I have to say that I had the chance to be there in Costa Rica. It was a wonderful workshop. I feel that these training workshops are paramount so we can build capacities and train people. If Mexico is a mega diverse country with a huge variety and diversity of ecosystems, it's urgent that we acknowledge that botanic gardens are needed in order to advance towards the conservation efforts for these ecosystems, plants. And we already know that there's more than 1,000 species only of trees that need intervention to preserve their conservation. And it's clear that all the efforts that are being held in Vallarta, I truly congratulate you. We need to replicate this in the Gulf of Mexico. And I also take advantage of this invitation. Consider the TGBS certification. I think that your garden can easily obtain it as part of your efforts towards biodiversity. I hope I answered, and thank you so much. Yes, of course, Professor. I wanted you to mention this global standard for biodiversity. As the professor just mentioned it, Lina, those certifications not only help us gain a star, but they help us organize what we have. And we always need to consider the work that's already been done. As our dear Professor Hernandez Cholocotzin would say, there's always going to be something before, and we need to listen to that. Thank you. Oh, very, very briefly, I just wanted to say Cristóbal is very, very into something. Like, it's not only the certification that matters, but the work that's behind it. Hello, Cristóbal. I have a question. I arrived, or I joined a bit late. I don't know if you mentioned how important it is in a botanic garden to make a contribution for environmental education with young children, so they learn to respect the environment. Yes, this is one of our axes, and thank you, Mom. This is my mom talking. Thank you very much for your question, because this is one of the axes. I'm here precisely because since I was a child, I've been taught the love for plants and animals. So that's part of all of our projects. Thank you. Cristóbal, we also have a question in the chat that's from Santiago Bravo Sánchez. How did you come up with the community nurseries, and how was the connection with the communities? Well, it's another very good question. This was made possible in the case of the Coale nursery. It was possible because Dr. Maribel Arenas had already been working there for 6 years with the community. So these community efforts of course won't be made possible if there's no support from the local people. They need to be involved. And year after year and throughout several seasons, there's an ongoing commitment. And this type of support has allowed us to get there. The Coale community is 6 hours away, and the species we are looking for are a bit further away even. So every time we need to go, we need to stop doing things in the Vallarta Botanic Garden. There's no other way so far, unless it is with the support provided by this type of call-ins. The defense of the river won't stop, even if there's no resources. But if we want to influence the area properly, we need a continuous commitment for involvement. With the Franklinia Foundation, we found different history facts or different precedents of success stories. I know Professor Orlik participated in different projects, but yeah, in general, it has to do with that, the support. And once the nursery is set up, training costs, we know that the Franklinia ones that were left are administered by the organization that finances them. And I try to promote local contracts, but it's very difficult for it to be maintained if there's no extra support. Thank you, Cristóbal.
One more question before we close out this Tech Talk. I do see we have some questions in the chat, so we will be getting back to you guys and emailing you. I also wanted to share really quickly our emails so that we can definitely follow up with any unanswered questions. But this last question, Megan, is for you. So what do you see are some immediate actions that institutions across the region can take right now to work towards the global strategy?
So I think that you are already taking work towards the global strategy. The global strategy doesn't present anything new that gardens are not already doing. It is just about linking what you are doing back to the strategy. So I think the first thing to do is go and look at the summary document that has nice colors and is not a horrible CBD blank page white and black text document, to really look at what the options for actions are. And I'm sure you will see that you're already taking actions towards them. And then it's just staying engaged with BGCI so that when there's opportunities to contribute, to say we are taking action towards target 10 or whatever you're working towards, that can be contributed, and we can share that with the world, that plant conservation is having a really big impact and the work of gardens is having a really big impact. And something to note is that for the global reporting that happened in 2020, none of the goals of the CBD were met, but the global strategy for plant conservation met several of its goals. So that's because of the commitment and the engagement of the gardens. That's because of people on this call. And we want to be making sure we're having that impact again. So the way that the new strategy is structured means that we can contribute that impact globally. And it also means we can chart these success stories again of the contribution of everyone, like internationally, towards the strategy. And if you're members and you have data sets that you can contribute to the BGCI databases, that's also something that is easily workable in, and anything you add into there will be contributing to the overall reporting and monitoring of the strategy. So keep doing what you're doing, and maybe just tell us a little bit more about it when we're ready for that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you both so much, Cristóbal and Megan. Before we close out, because Cristóbal mentioned it a few times, and I also mentioned it a few times, the Botanical Bridges Congress, el Congreso Puentes Botánicos, is happening again in April of 2026, so it's just around the corner. You can gather more information from this QR code. And we also have a newsletter that started coming out this year in 2025. We have the newsletter both for the Botanical Bridges Congress and the newsletter for news around the Caribbean and Central American region. If you are not yet subscribed, I highly recommend it. Both of these come out once a month, and there's a lot of great information, including news around the region, but also scholarship and grant opportunities. So I highly encourage everyone to subscribe so that you can stay in the know. I would like to thank our interpreter, Clara, for staying with us for 10 extra minutes. Thank you so much, so that we could finish out our presentations since we started a little late. So we greatly appreciate you, Clara, and all of our participants that are in this technical talk. I'm sorry there was some confusion with times. As we all work internationally, there were some time changes that happened that we didn't quite account for very well, and there was confusion with the timing. So I appreciate everyone that came in, even if it was just 5 minutes. So sorry about that. But these presentations are being recorded in English and in Spanish. We will be uploading them to our YouTube later in November, because we're almost in November, and we will include it in our newsletter. So again, subscribe so you can get the YouTube link for that recording. And with that, I would love to say stay safe, because Hurricane Melissa is still making its way through the region. And we hope to see you guys in April at the Botanical Bridges Congress in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, being co-hosted by Jardín Botánico Rafael M. Moscoso. So again, thank you so much. Bye.